Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you for watching. This work provides a straightforward 6-step explanation of the relationship between muqatta'at here and the 5 daily prayers that are here. And since the first chapter, which is here, of the Quran represent the daily prayers at their most fundamental level and also comes immediately before the first code, Alif Lam Mim. After a brief introduction, inshallah, we begin with the first code. On the right side of the page, there are 29 sacred codes from 1,400 years ago. The significance and function of the codes are unknown. They are in the beginning of 29 chapters of the Quran, are dispersed between chapter 2 and 68, and are composed of only 14 letters of the Arabic alphabet and are exactly in 14 designs. Immediately after chapter 68, which has the last code, at the beginning of chapter 69, we find 3 verses that pose a thought-provoking fundamental question about reality. And on the left side of the page, we have the 5 daily prayers, which are composed of a total of 17 rakats, and their schedule of 2, 4, 4, 3, 4 begins with a 2 rakat prayer before the sunrise, a 4 rakat prayer after the high noon, a 4 rakat prayer in the evening, a 3 rakat prayer after sunset, and a 4 rakat prayer during the night, but before midnight. Step 1. Close proximity of the first chapter with the codes. The first chapter of the Quran that serves as the basis for the 5 daily prayers is immediately before the first sacred code, Alif Lam Mim. That is the first verse of the second chapter. The chapter of sure reality is also immediately after chapter 68 with the last code. Step 2. Numbers 29 and 29 and 52 and 52. The first chapter, which is the base of daily prayers as well as the sacred codes that follow it, contain exactly 29 words and 29 codes respectively. The chapters of Sure Reality and 68 also have 52 verses each, 52 and 52. This is similar to the 14 letters and 14 designs of the codes It is by design. Step 3. Numbers 5 and 17 and 5 and 17. Daily prayer consists of 5 prayers and 17 rakats. And the two greatest gaps in the codes are a gap of 5 between chapter 2 and 26 and a gap of 17 between chapters 50 and 68. So here chapter 20 has a code, chapter 26 has a code, but the 5 chapters here between 20 and 26, they don't have code. And this is the first large gap. The second large gap, that is more than 3 times larger, chapter 50 has a code, chapter 68 has a code, but the 17 chapters between them don't have a code. Now, the two gaps are fascinating, correlated, complementary, and meaningful. This sounds impossible, but it is true. It is impossible because the Quran was revealed 1,400 years ago in a tribal environment. The Prophet, peace be upon him, could not read and write. The Quran was revealed in different places and pieces over 23 years. And there is no record of discussions about math in the Quran for the last 1,400 years, except in recent years, including this word. It's impossible, but it is true. Step 4, gap of 5. Now the gap of 5 here has been highlighted with the orange rectangle, begins from 21 to 25, and we have them, as C1, C2, C3, C4, and C5. And you can see that here, before them, chapter 20 has a code, and you can see that the value of the code is 42, numerical value. And the chapter that is after the code, after the gap, also has a code, and that has a numerical value of 52. Now here you see a fascinating, unbelievable, beautiful mathematical structure. That should be impossible, but it's true. The sacred codes are between chapter 2 to 68. That is 67 chapters. So they partition the Quran in a way that if you subtract 67 from 114, you end up with number 47. Now, if we add the numerical values of the two codes, which are 42 and 52, now we are getting 2 times 47. Now if we add the two numbers of C3, which are numbers 23 and 118. Now we get 3 times 47. Now we're going to the C4 and C2, and we add these 4 numbers together. Now we get 4 times 47. Now we go to C1 and C5, and we add those 4 numbers together. Now we get 5 times 47. So we started from 1 times 47 to 2 times 47 to 3 times 47 to 4 times 47 to 5 times 47. And now when you add them all together, we get 12 times 47. Now, beautiful mathematics, you don't understand it, but you see the beauty of it. But one thing is clear here, that the two codes are perfectly, and that's something we can understand, the two codes are perfectly at home and in sync with their Quranic context. Now we go to step 5, gap of 17. Now the two numbers of the C3 here, 23 and 118. Here we see a beautiful mathematical structure as well that is related to the gap with 5. So these are the two numbers, significant number here. Please pay attention. You can see the beautiful structure here developing. Now, chapter 23 begins with the letter Qaf and ends with the letter Nun, which are the two codes of the second large gap. You also notice that the numerical values of the two codes of the second large gap correspond with chapters 21 and 25, which are at the beginning and end of the first gap. Now you notice that when you add number 21 and 25, you get 2 times 23. And when you add number 50 and 68, you get 118. Of course, now if you add number 23 and 118, you get 3 times 47. So not only the numbers are beautifully linked, but you see something really interesting. While in the first large gap, which was the gap of 5, numbers 23 and 118 are at the center of the gap. In the second large gap, numbers 23 and 118 are on the sides of the gap, indicating an intricate mathematical design. Inshallah, we get into these later on. Right now, our main point is to show the relationship between the codes and the daily prayer format. One thing else that you realize here, that all of the four codes, it's beautiful, impossible, but it is true. All of the four codes of the two gaps are in sync with their Quranic context. Beautifully. Step 6. Number 38 and 643. What is the sure reality? On this page, we have the 14 designs of the codes that are composed of a total of 38 letters with a total numerical value of 643. We also have the daily prayer format that is the product of the same two numbers of 38 and 643. So we got here a very beautiful mathematical structure. Both the daily prayers and the codes have these two numbers. Now, this implies that the codes and the 5 daily prayers that we recite every day are linked. They are not just linked, they are linked in an intricate mathematical structure that is impossible to disengage or separate. They are there. They have been there maybe forever, to the time of creation. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Please consider the following. This is the main point here actually. 24 of the 29 codes are almost immediately followed by verses praising the Quran's greatness, demonstrating that the codes themselves are also extremely valuable. Sadly, for the last 1,400 years, this fact has gone unnoticed. Please notice the codes. Please notice the rest of the Quran. Inshallah, we reflect on this in coming discussion.